This is a public service announcement brought to you by KBMSfm. Parental guidance is advised for the following program as it may contain some bad language and some ideas that younger listeners may find disturbing.
kbmsfm@hotmail.com or check out our website kbmsfmradio.tk. Email me, Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. You're listening to KBMSfm, Balanced Radio. Your views, your hits, and your news. Hello and welcome to KBMSFM's launch show. This show is jam-packed with all sorts of topics, hits and questions. I can't wait to get started, me. These topics include did former US President Ronald Reagan warn the United States 40 years ago about how life would turn out in America today? Also, we've got Donald Trump, a known Republican, running for the presidency at this time. What do you reckon, guys? Anyway, we'll move on. We also have a big privilege to use someone's audio. This guy's name's Philip. Now, we'll get to that. We acquired his audio through his permission on YouTube via messaging. If you're listening, Philip, thanks very much, and listen on. We have been privileged to hear the thoughts of this very person. He's very outspoken. He's known to be very controversial in some of the things he talks about or brings up. But we believe Philip has some very good points here at KBMS FM. We also have all your hits lined up and ready to go here on KBMS FM Balanced Radio. Hey everybody, this is Paul. I'm from kbmsfm@hotmail.com. You can personally email me with your requests, your feedback, your questions, anything you got on conspiracy theories, your music, anything you want. It would be Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. That's my personal email that starts with Paul and then there's kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. You can also check out the website for the station. That's kbmsfmradio.tk. That's kbmsfmradio.tk. You can also follow us on Twitter, and that's @kbmsfm. You can follow myself on Twitter. I'm @Paul Hayburn, HAYBURN. Now firstly, I am Paul. I never introduced myself in the first half. How professional was that? And secondly, I have to say to Philip, whom you will all hear in just a moment, thank you very much indeed for allowing KBMS FM to use this audio from your video. That rhymed. That was quite good. But yeah, thanks Philip. Thanks ever so much. Now this particular video explores the unjust ways of the world's government and the practices of charities. And the video is named Where Are the Results? With a question mark, I must add. KBMS FM has edited some of the audio to suit our time schedule. So please go to Philip's channel to view it in full. His channel is called Inconvenient Truths. It's got a picture of a dog beside it. I'm sure it's Philip's, if I'm right, or am I wrong? I'm not sure, but I'm sure it is Philip's. A lovely looking dog as well, might add. And also his channel is listed in our featured channels. So here it is now.
I hope that all of you had a very nice Memorial Day. I know I certainly did. But time to get back to business. And in thinking about Memorial Day, it certainly makes me think about what I say all the time. I say it on these videos, and I have said it and said it. The many men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice for us. There's the trendies and the yuppies out there that I think just don't get it. They don't understand what Memorial Day is for. They don't understand what the troops are doing right now. What they're trying to do is secure our freedom. It's secure our freedom. It's secure our freedom. I think sometimes we just don't realize what it's all about. And like I say, I am sick of the trendies and I'm sick of the yuppies. But it's the point, okay? It's just the point that someone sacrificed so that I can be free. There's people out there defending the Constitution that we have. Our government wants to bypass and act like we don't have a Constitution, but folks, we do. This is what people died for over the course of this country's history. Died so that we can be free. And you know, this is the spitting. because I do discuss this all the time, that people have made the ultimate sacrifice for us, and we should be doing our parts because we're getting railroaded. Seems like a lot of people just don't care. A lot of people don't want bother. A lot of people don't understand what it's all about. And that is part of why I am doing what I am doing, to try to help maybe steer some people in the right direction that don't understand it. I like talking about what comes to my heart, okay? And something that I've been thinking about for quite some time now is all these different things, like the American Cancer Society, muscular dystrophy, and all these different organizations who are out there supposedly doing all this research. The cancer rates are off the chart in this country, probably off the charts in the world. Cancer rates for children are off the charts. Autism, all types of diseases are off the charts. And what I do not understand, with all the trillions of dollars that get sunk into these organizations, where's the cures at? You know what? I figured out a long time ago, there's no money in cures, okay? There's money in wink wink research, okay? Oh yeah, there's been a few things. There's a few things that they've cured. But you add up length of time, man hours of research, and trillions of dollars pumped into this system, they want us sick. Okay, it's real simple. The government wants us sick, and the government's in bed. See, we have fascism here, okay? Some understand that, some don't. The merger of corporate and state, okay? The merger of big business and state, okay? And that's what we have here in America. Fascism has come to America. There's no money in curing your cancer, okay? There really isn't. There's money in keeping you on pills for the course of your life. For the course of your life. There's where the money is. See, it's a whole big circle. It isn't just the pharmaceutical industry. It isn't just the American Cancer Society or muscular dystrophy or any of it. Cancer rates are off the board. You know why they're off the board? It's because of the crap that we're eating, the GMO crap, the radiated meat, the radiated milk, the radiated everything. We're eating genetically modified crap, as Gerald Celente likes to call it, frankenfood, because that's what most of it is. And it's killing us. It's giving us diabetes. It's giving us all sorts of problems, health problems, folks. Why don't everybody make videos? Why don't everybody look into this? Why don't everybody start talking about it? Why don't we start calling these places? Why don't we start sending them letters? And demand some accountability. And demand that some of these multi-million-dollar-a-year pukes quit their jobs. I've noticed a lot of things that I talk about and discuss, I don't hear anybody else talking about them, so it either makes me unusual or intuitive or something. But anyway, folks, I do appreciate people listening to this, and my goodness gracious, if any of you can come up with a great idea, I'm all ears. I want to hear about it.
Now, our thoughts are that, yes, we are being treated like dummies, and yes, some of us are still asleep, though many are slowly waking up. However, this needs to pick up the pace, and fast. We are all aware, all too aware, of the Illuminati's plans for a new world order, and how they intend to reduce the planet's population by something like 90%. But not enough of us take this seriously enough. Philip's video tells us about some of the ways in which this will happen. Also, he tells us that our soldiers are fighting to help us survive. But this is also diverting our attention from our countries, our own governments. And what our governments are doing under this blanket of war. You might be asking me, or asking yourself, how can a Scottish person tell me this if you're an American citizen? Well, the UK government are just the bloody same. In the USA, FEMA camps have sprung up everywhere, and funnily enough, so have hundreds of thousands of plastic containers which can only be described as 4-man coffins. I mean, I've seen these things and it scares me to think that my fellow Americans, I'm not American, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. What I mean is my friends, my could-be friends, you know, everybody in the world should be friends, to be honest with you. There should be peace. Everybody should be on one level. But why is there so many of these coffins? Are they planning for some terrible atrocity? Well, it does seem that way. What do you think? Send us your emails to kbmsfm@hotmail.com, or you can mail myself. It starts with Paul, then it's kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk.
KBMS FM Balanced Radio. Check out our website, kbmsfmradio.tk. Also, you can email us at kbmsfm@hotmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at kbmsfm. Keep it locked to your Balanced Radio. Your hits, your news, and your views.
You're listening to KBMS FM. Why not check out our website, Let me start again. Why not try out our website? It's kbmsfmradio.tk. Sorry about that, guys. You can email us also at kbmsfm@hotmail.com. We're moving on to Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was the 40th President of the United States of America. I think we're all aware of that. Serving from 1981 and 1989, during which time he delivered this speech.
Now, one side in this campaign has been telling us that the issues of this election are the maintenance of peace and prosperity. The line has been used, we've never had it so good. But I have an uncomfortable feeling that this prosperity isn't something on which we can base our hopes for the future. And yet our government continues to spend $17 million a day more than the government takes in. We've raised our debt limit 3 times in the last 12 months. And now our national debt is 1.5 times bigger than all the combined debts of all the nations of the world. We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce. Foreign dollar claims are $27.3 billion. And we've just had announced that the dollar of 1939 will now purchase 45 cents in its total value. We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. It's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down, and regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. In this vote harvesting time, they use terms like the Great Society, or as we were told a few days ago by the President, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Now, he spoke those words, Ronald Reagan, the President of the USA, some 40 plus years ago. However, they are still relevant to this day. With the economic woes of today, I can't help but think we're living in a time of global despair, and we have hit the self-destruct button already. With all the promises from both the US and the UK governments of peace and prosperity to come having been broken already. Can we still trust what our leaders tell us? No way. Well, that's the short answer anyway. But hey, that's my opinion. What's yours? Mail us now with your thoughts on this. It's kbmsfm@hotmail.com, and for me it's Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. Next up, we have a thought-provoking statement. Can Donald Trump be the one to save America from total destruction, or is it too little too late? kbmsfm@hotmail.com, or check out our website, kbmsfmradio.tk. Email me, Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. You're listening to KBMS FM Balanced Radio. Your views, your hits, and your news. Now, Donald Trump has always been very controversial in his statements to the media, friends, and his colleagues. But can he really be the guy who saves... excuse me. I've just had a drink of tea. Excuse me. But can he really be the guy who saves America? Firstly, let's hear what he had to say last year in an interview on a news network. This is Donald Trump.
I'm looking at what's happening with this country, and frankly, it's very sad. I see what's happening left and right, how we're being abused by other nations, and I don't like it. I don't like what's happening with jobs. I am seriously thinking about it. But I am a Republican, so I'd be running as a Republican. I've been a Republican for a long time. I just really respect what they stand for. I like that they're fighting certain battles, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll be running as a Republican. I mean, look at what's going on in the Middle East. It's an explosion, and I don't think, has there been a response? I don't think so. And frankly, the Middle East is a tinderbox. It's going to explode. OPEC will probably be destroyed if it explodes, and oil prices could go the other way. And I'm a student at the Wharton School of Finance. I did very well. I understand economics. And you'll break up this, really what would normally be an illegal monopoly of OPEC, and break it up very strongly. So when I look at the Middle East, it's a tinderbox, it's exploding, and I'm saying that could have a positive impact on oil prices as opposed to, I mean, if you look at oil right now, it's going to be soon $100 a barrel. Far too high. It's set by OPEC. I think OPEC would explode with the Middle East, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Well, that was quite a statement, that. And he does realise the dangers all around the globe with the Middle East oil prices, and he certainly wants to see OPEC fall, from what I can see. Or sorry, what I can hear. But he says he would run as a Republican. Would this be good? I mean, I'd like your feedback on that, because I'm no too clued up on the American Republicans and the Democrats. I mean, we've got like 5 or 6, maybe even 7 or 8 different parties over here. So, yeah, hit me with your feedback with that. And would Donald Trump even get the job as a Republican? Would you, the American citizen, like him in office, and would he do the right thing, or just become one of those other Illuminati puppets? Let me know what you think. It's kbmsfm@hotmail.com or Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. Hey everybody, this is Paul. I'm from kbmsfm@hotmail.com. You can personally email me with your requests, your feedback, your questions, anything you got on conspiracy theories, your music, anything you want. It would be Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. That's my personal email that starts with Paul and then there's kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. You can also check out the website for the station, that's kbmsfmradio.tk. That's kbmsfmradio.tk. You can also follow us on Twitter, and that's @kbmsfm. You can follow myself on Twitter. I'm @Paul Hayburn, HAYBURN. kbmsfm@hotmail.com or check out the website kbmsfmradio.tk. Email me, Paul, kbmsfm@hotmail.co.uk. You're listening to KBMSFM, Balanced Radio. Your views, your hits, and your news. Well, hope you have enjoyed this part of the show. Mark is up next with this week's political, news, sports, and games reviews. I'll be back on the 7th again with more great food for thought. Until then, take care, folks, and thanks for listening.
KBMSFM Balanced Radio. Check out our website, kbmsfmradio.tk. Also, you can email us at kbmsfm@hotmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @kbmsfm. Keep it locked to your Balanced Radio. Your hits, your news, and your views.
Thanks, Paul. Today we're going to be talking about political news, sports reviews, and game reviews. Syrian government denies troops were behind Hula massacre. The Syrian government has denied its troops were behind an attack on a string of villages that left more than 90 people dead, blaming the killings on hundreds of heavily armed gunmen who attacked soldiers in the area. Friday's assault on Hula, an area northwest of central city of Homs, was one of the bloodiest single events in Syria's 15-month-old uprising. The UN says 32 children under the age of 10 were among the dead. The international body and others have issued statements appearing to hold the Syrian regime responsible, but all stopped well short of suggesting intervention. Jihad Makdisi, a foreign ministry spokesman, told a Damascus news conference that Syria is being subjected to a tsunami of lies on Hula, categorically deny the responsibility of government forces for the massacre, Makdisi said. The Hula attack sparked outrage from American and other international leaders and renewed concerns about the relevance of a month-old international peace plan that has not stopped almost daily violence. UN observers among more than 250 who were dispatched in recent weeks to try and salvage the ceasefire plan found spent artillery and tank shells at the site Saturday, a finding which could point toward the government's heavily armed mechanised units. Tehran defiant on nuclear programme. Iran has said it will continue to stockpile highly enriched uranium and has ruled out the inspection of a suspect military site in a sign of Tehran's frustration that concessions on its nuclear programme may not result in relief from international sanctions. Feridun Abbasi Davani, the head of Iran's Atomic Energy Organisation, says over the weekend that there was no reason to end enrichment of uranium at 20% concentration, which is easy to transform to the 90% level needed for a bomb. He had previously indicated that Iran, which insists its nuclear programme is for peaceful purposes, could halt production of 20% uranium after enough material was produced for domestic consumption. Similar comments by other Iranian officials had fueled suspicion that Iran was ready for a deal to end enrichment of highly enriched uranium in exchange for incentives such as the easing of US and EU energy and banking sanctions, which will take effect on July 1st. Iran's disappointment comes after its two-day meeting with the European Union and six main powers, the US, UK, France, Russia, China and Germany, in Baghdad revealed fundamental disagreements between the two sides and ended without progress. Mr. Abbasi also said that the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN nuclear watchdog, had not yet convinced Tehran why it needed to inspect the Parchin military complex southeast of Tehran, which the IAEA suspects may have been a site of research related to nuclear weapons development. We have no nuclear site in Parchin, Mr. Abbasi stressed. Iran was believed to have been considering offering access to inspectors prior to the Baghdad talks. Mr. Abbasi's comments will deepen the frustration of some Western diplomats who believe that it will be difficult to make progress with Iran over its nuclear programme. After last week's two-day meeting in Baghdad, one senior diplomat told the FT simply did not know whether any progress could be made at the next session of talks in Moscow on June 18th. Or whether the process would completely collapse. One factor that allows Iran to maintain its tough stance is that it knows the Obama administration does not want negotiations to collapse before November's US presidential election. The collapse of the talks would bolster Israeli leaders who believe an attack should take place this summer or autumn. Iranian analysts believe Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who has the last say in all state affairs, has given Iran's negotiating team greater authority than ever to break the current impasse through a step-by-step approach, while insisting on the country's right to continue enriching uranium, although at a lower rate. However, Tehran realised in Baghdad that it was being offered spare parts for civilian aircraft in return for conceding an important early bargaining chip. Freezing production of more highly enriched uranium, Western diplomats also refused to discuss Iran's right to enrich lower-grade uranium. Giving spare parts for civilian aircraft is considered too little and too insulting for Iran, while it expected easing of oil sanctions, says a senior Asian diplomat in Tehran. Iranian media and analysts blame pressure from Israel, the US Congress and Arab states for the Western powers' refusal to discuss Iran's right to enrich uranium at a lower grade. The Iranian rial has weakened by 5% since last Wednesday, reflecting the disappointment of Iran's business community on the lack of progress in Baghdad. Meanwhile, reform-minded politicians fear that if the nuclear talks fail, it would empower those inside the regime who insist the US is only interested in regime change in Tehran. One political analyst says that the failed talk would push Iran towards more aggressive policies in the Middle East because the mentality is language of force needs to be responded by a language of force. Kayan Daily newspaper, which is the mouthpiece for Iran's hardliners, says nuclear negotiations with the six powers was like playing in the enemy's court, and that it was better not to attend the next meeting in Moscow or anywhere else. Clegg dismisses Eurozone exodus as breathless talk and cleared barb at Theresa May. Unrest within the coalition government appears to be increasing after the Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg spoke out against the Home Secretary. In an intervention made after Theresa May had disclosed the contingency planning was underway to deal with a huge influx of immigrants, Mr Clegg dismissed suggestions that Britain was planning to limit the number of people allowed to enter the country. He says there were no intentions to pull up the drawbridge on an exodus of workers from crisis-hit Eurozone nations. The Deputy Prime Minister, speaking on BBC One's Andrew Marshall, says, "I really do think some of the breathless talk in the media about do we pull up the drawbridge to stop hordes of people migrating across Europe is both far-fetched somewhat, apocalyptic and deeply unhelpful. We are not there yet." In an interview with the Daily Telegraph yesterday, Mrs May had said that work is ongoing to deal with large movements of people in the event of the breakup of the single currency, but refused to say exactly what sort of response that was under consideration. Now on to sports news. Can Russia build on their Euro 2008 success in Euro 2012? One of the enduring images of Euro 2008 was the free-flowing football played by Russia on their route to the semi-finals. Russian football was at a high ebb even before the tournament had begun, following Zenit St Petersburg's triumph in the UEFA Cup. The feel-good factor continued in Austria and Switzerland before Russia were beaten by eventual winner Spain in the last four. And after breezing through Euro 2012 qualifying by winning 7 out of 10 matches, they look capable of getting past Poland, Greece and the Czech Republic in Group A this summer. The core of the current team is made up of players who shocked Europe 4 years ago, but despite this and the fact that qualification was achieved with minimum fuss, some Russian pundits are worried age might be catching up with their golden generation. The problem now is the guys from 2008 are still the core of the team. The average age is about 28, which is quite high. We might get out of the group, but then we would have to play somebody out of Group B, like the Dutch or the Germans, and the chances of beating either of those two teams is not great. Should the gradual improvement of recent years stop, it would be worrying for a country which is hoping to impress both on and off the pitch when they host the 2018 World Cup. And it is this scenario which worries Tchaikovskaya most. I think Russian football peaked in 2008 when the national team did well in the Euros and Senate won the UEFA Cup, he says. There should be somebody of the age of Jack Wilshere who we can build around, but nobody springs to mind. Manager Dick Advocaat is always criticised for not bringing through any new players, but his response is that there are not any younger players of the quality out there. Considering the fact that Russia's under-21s are top of their qualifying group for the next European Championship, such forecasts of struggle seem harsh. However, according to Tchaikovskaya, the problems run much deeper for a number of reasons. Teams like Anzai Makalele, financed by billionaire owner Solomon Kbms, are spending heavily in foreign imports like Samuel Eto'o, and Tchaikovskaya does not believe that is good for the development of homegrown talent. They say they have been doing things to produce more players in Russia, but I have not seen any evidence of that, she says. It all comes down to the projects like Anzai. Another problem in Russia is that there are not enough pitches for kids to play on, and even if you do get a very talented player, if they don't live in Moscow or St. Petersburg, it would be very difficult for them to get noticed. It's a big country and is too difficult to get from one place to another. There is very little development work done in the regions. If you look at the cities that have been chosen to host World Cup matches, it is basically coming to the European part of Russia. I think it will end up being the same cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg, who will benefit. And he believes the government needs to intervene in the development of players, citing Germany as a classic example of how to nurture young talent. We don't have a youth system at all in Russia, he said. There are schools and academies, but they are not functioning properly. It needs a big change. Germany revamped their youth system in the late 90s, and they had to wait about 8 to 10 years to produce a brilliant team at the last World Cup. Of the Russian clubs in the Premier League, I would say there are only 3 or 4 functioning academy systems. Spartak Moscow, Zenit. Their youth academies are good, but others see it easier to buy a promising young Brazilian player than raise their own. If they, the Russian Football Union, want to change this, it should be government funded, or they should make people interested in the project where they might want to invest in a private initiative. People at the Russian Football Union have thought about it, and I don't think any steps have been taken. A quick look at the fortunes of Russia's European Under-17 Championship winning squad underlines how important it is for top clubs to field homegrown players. In 2006, the Under-17s won the European Championship, but I think just 2 of this squad are starters in the Russian Premier League, says Kalashnikov. The rest of the team have not made it to the top level. They have just disappeared. Those forgotten players might not be needed this summer, with Andrei Arshavin, Roman Pavlyuchenko and Fulham's Pavel Pogrebnyak still around. However, the need for new and talented faces in the squad will become apparent once those leading lights see their start begin to fade. Monaco GP. Mark Webber wins for Red Bull in Monte Carlo. Mark Webber won the Monaco GP for the second time in 3 years, from Nico Rosberg and Fernando Alonso. The Red Bull driver led from the start and controlled the race, measuring his pace to ensure he stayed ahead. McLaren's Lewis Hamilton ran third in the early laps but lost out to Ferrari's Alonso and Red Bull Sebastian Vettel on strategy. McLaren's Jenson Button had a difficult race running with back markers after a poor start and retiring after a spin. The top 6 completed by Ferrari's Felipe Massa ran nose to tail in a tense last 10 laps, enlivened by intermittent light rain, but all kept their cool on this tricky and tight street circuit, and there were no changes before the flag. Webber's victory makes this the first Formula 1 season in history to feature 6 different winners in the first 6 races. "I'm feeling incredible," says the Australian. "It was an interesting race. The first phase of the race was strange. It was hard to get the soft prime tyre warmed up. Seb had his tyres in and wasn't wearing them, so he was coming back into the picture. I didn't want him to get the magic 21 second gap and take the lead. It's an amazing day for the team, myself, and really happy to have won here again." The result moves Alonso into the World Championship lead, 3 points ahead of Vettel and Webber, who is classified third on the results countback. Hamilton drops from third to fourth, 13 points adrift of the Ferrari driver. Webber shrugged off his reputation for poor starts by leading into the first corner, followed by Mercedes, Rosberg, Hamilton and Alonso. Up front, Webber pulled out a lead of about 2 seconds and controlled that gap, with Rosberg and a similar margin ahead of Hamilton. Alonso initially dropped back a little from Hamilton, but he was merely saving his tyres so he could use their grip closer to the pit stop. The strategy paid off as when Webber and Hamilton stopped on lap 29, 2 laps after Rosberg. Alonso stayed out for one more lap, on which he put in the 2 fastest sectors of the race to that point. That allowed him to emerge ahead of Hamilton. The target was to try to finish in front of Sebastian and Lewis, as they are with us in the championship. At the start I had contact with Grosjean, so thought there was damage, but the car was fine. We took Hamilton at the stop with a perfect time and a perfect stop again, so well done to the team. The leaders' stops left Vettel, who had started 9th. The world champion had started on more durable soft tyres as opposed to the super softs on the drivers at the front of the grid, and his race was made by leaping up to 6th place at the start as he took to the shorter escape road at the first corner to avoid an accident triggered by Lotus's Romain Grosjean's spinning after he drove into Michael Schumacher's Mercedes. Race stewards investigated Vettel's move, which was echoed by other drivers, but decided to take no action. Once he was running at the front, Vettel pulled out enough of a lead to enable him to stop on lap 46 and rejoin ahead of Hamilton. He needed to chop across the McLaren on the way up the hill after the first corner. From that point on, the top 6 stayed in close contact, nervously watching the skies for the threatening rain and driving accordingly when it did start to fall. Only 4 seconds separated Webber from Hamilton at the flag, with Massa only 2 more behind. It's been world-class driving from all of them on the trickiest circuit. I have not seen a mistake from any of these guys, says BBC co-commentator David Coulthard. It was Red Bull's 3rd Monaco win in 3 years. Vettel won in 2011 and they became the first team to win twice in 2012. Schumacher had qualified on pole, but he was demoted to 6th place for causing a crash in the previous race in Spain. Sipped back to 8th on the first lap as a result of pushing him against the wall at the start. Schumacher was 7th after the pit stops, but progressively dropped back out of the points with an engine problem, retiring on lap 64 with 14 to go. Schumacher's misfortune moved Toro Rosso's Dean Eric Verne into an impressive 7th, but he lost out with a late gamble to fit intermediate tyres. That promoted the Force Indies of Paul Di Resta and Nico Hulkenberg, with Lotus's Kimi Räikkönen and Williams driver Bruno Senna completing the top 10. Video game releases and reviews. First game we're going to talk about is a game called Battleship. Battleship is the first-person shooter turn-based strategy video game based on the film of the same name, which in turn is based on the board game Battleship. It is published by Activision. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions are developed by Double Helix Games, while the Wii, the DS and the 3DS versions are developed by Magic Pockets. Max Payne 3. Max Payne 3 is a video game published by Rockstar Games. It is the third title in the Max Payne franchise and was released for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in May 2012, with a Microsoft Windows version to follow, with a worldwide release June 1st. Development is led by Rockstar Vancouver in collaboration with the New England, London and Toronto studios. This is the first game in the series that was not developed by Finnish game developer Remedy Entertainment and not written by series creator Sam Lake. The lead writer of Max Payne 3 was Dan Houser, who was also the writer of Red Dead Redemption and most games in the Grand Theft Auto series. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City is a third-person shooter video game for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Co-developed by Slant 6 Games and Capcom. It was released on March 20th, 2012 in North America, March 22nd, 2012 in Australia, March 23rd, 2012 in Europe and April 26, 2012 in Japan. It is part of the Resident Evil series, being set around the same time as Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Nemesis titles, though it is a non-canon hypothetical scenario. Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Alan Wake's American Nightmare is a story-driven action horror video game, developed by Remedy Entertainment and published by Microsoft Studios. The game is a downloadable follow-up to its predecessor Alan Wake, but is not a sequel. The game is an Xbox Live arcade title and was released 22nd February 2012. A PC version was released on 22nd of May 2012. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Future Soldier is a video game published by Ubisoft and was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 consoles on May 22nd, 2012. Excluding expansions, it is the fifth installment in the Ghost Recon series and was announced to be in development by Ubisoft on January 22nd, 2009. The game has a futuristic take on the Ghost Recon series. Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops: The Line is an upcoming third-person shooter video game being developed by Jaeger Development and published by 2K Games. The game will release on Microsoft Windows, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 platforms between 26th and 29th of June. It was officially announced at Spike Video Game Awards on December 12, 2009. The game is inspired by Joseph Conrad's novella Heart of Darkness. Now we'll talk about upcoming releases, starting off with Resident Evil 6. Resident Evil 6, known in Japan as Biohazard 6, is an upcoming dramatic horror video game developed and published by Capcom. It is scheduled for release on October 2nd, 2012 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and at a later date for Microsoft Windows. Assassin's Creed 3. Assassin's Creed 3 is an upcoming historical action-adventure video game being developed and published by Ubisoft for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii and Microsoft Windows. It will be the fifth major installment in the Assassin's Creed series and the third numbered title in the series. The game is set for release on October 30th, 2012. Ubisoft says that the game will be bigger than any of its previous installments. Assassin's Creed 3 will be set during the American Revolution from 1753 to 1783, featuring a new protagonist, Connor Kenway. Halo 4. Halo 4 is an upcoming video game and the 8th installment in the Halo franchise, being developed for the Xbox 360. Halo 4 is intended to be the first of a new trilogy of Halo series games, named the Reclaimer Trilogy, whereas the previous Halo games were developed by Bungie. Halo 4 will be developed by 343 Industries. The game continues sometime after the ending of Halo 3 and marks the return of the Master Chief as the main protagonist. Cortana will also appear in the game. The game is set for a worldwide release on November 6, 2012. Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 is an upcoming first-person shooter video game developed by Treyarch and published by Activision, to be released on November 13, 2012 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Black Ops 2 is the 9th game in the Call of Duty franchise of video games and a sequel to the 2010 game Call of Duty Black Ops. Black Ops 2 is the first game in the Call of Duty franchise to have a completely futuristic setting and feature future warfare technology. It also presents branching storylines driven by player choice for the first time in the franchise's history. Hitman Absolution. Hitman Absolution is an upcoming stealth game being developed by 10 Interactive and published by Square Enix. It is the upcoming fifth entry in the Hitman game series and will run on 10 Interactive's proprietary Glacier 2 game engine. The developers have confirmed that Absolution will feature different gameplay than previous installments, with a greater focus on action and gunplay. It has been set for a November 20th, 2012 release. Thank you, that's all we've got time for today, and join us again on our next show to find out more.
KBMSFM Balanced Radio. Check out our website, kbmsfmradio.tk. Also, you can email us at kbmsfm@hotmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at KBMSFM. Keep it locked to your Balanced Radio. Your hits, your news, and your views.